Good morning, I'm Marcia McMillan, and you are watching CTV News Channel. We want to get right to the big news today, a harsh reality check on how hard the COVID-19 pandemic has hit Canada's economy. More than 1 million jobs were lost in the month of March. The unemployment rate has jumped to 7.8%. That's the largest one-point jump since comparable recording began in 1976. With all but non-essential businesses and workers being told to work from home, millions of Canadians have been confronted with layoffs. And more numbers are expected this morning out of Ottawa, where the Trudeau government is set to unveil its projections and modeling data for the possible spread of COVID-19 in Canada. So let's get to those job numbers while we wait for that news from the federal government. Pattie Lovett-Reid joins me now with more. Pattie, this is really just a partial picture of how bleak things look right now.
You're absolutely right, Marcia. It's not going to get better in April either. The number, 1,011,000 jobs lost and an unemployment rate that goes higher by 2.2% to 7.8%. When I look at those 15 years of age and over, employment fell 3.3%. It's its lowest level going back to 1997, where working 58.58% of the workforce. Ontario was hardest hit with 403,000 jobs lost. Looking at the private sector, 830,200 jobs lost. The public sector lost 144,600. And right now, self-employed, little change, but it's still in early days. The area hardest hit that jumped out at me, Marcia, would be youth employment. Those between the ages of 15 and 24, 392,500 jobs lost. Youth unemployment in Canada stands just above 49%. More women than men lost jobs, but also when you look at those most vulnerable, what was hardest hit? Accommodation, food, culture, and recreation. And those areas alone actually typically employ about 2 million people, which is why you know this number at 1 million plus is likely going to get worse when we get into April. And one other point I want to make, this also screams really loud the importance of getting through the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy so small businesses can hire back some of those people who have been laid off.
Okay, Pattie, I've got a few seconds more with you. Again, we're waiting for those COVID-19 projections from the federal government. That's going to be happening this hour. While I wait for that, how do you think these numbers, or will these numbers, be reflected today on what we see on the TSX? What are the futures pointing to?
We were already looking at a fairly rocky start, and I think a lot of that has to do with there's optimism around OPEC and OPEC plus members, and there's sort of a ripple effect that maybe Russia may be pulling back on production levels. There's hope of more stimulus coming. And when you look to Europe, there's a certain element of optimism that some businesses could be opening. But you and I have chatted about this. That may be a little bit of too much optimism too soon. And of course, for many going into a long weekend, they may not want to be in these markets. But I will say that we are seeing oil. It rallied 6% yesterday. It's hovering right around $26 US a barrel. The Canadian dollar right now, typically you and I talk about it, it moves on these numbers. These numbers were somewhat anticipated. By the way, the only one that really called a million loss was Citi. But I would suggest that if oil continues to trend higher, that could provide some support to the Canadian dollar.
Okay, Pattie Lovett-Reid starting us off. Pattie, thank you very much.